Welcome to this episode of Truth Seekers, where His Grace Bishop Emilianos of Miloa will answer questions sent in by the youth with a member of the youth.
Hello Maria, thank you for coming over today. Would you like to tell us a few things about yourself before we go to the question?
My name is Maria Christou. I'm 22 years old and I'm currently in my final year of studying for education.
Good. All right, let's start with the question. How do we discuss our faith with others without seeming preachy? What do you think, in your own words?
I personally think it's quite hard to discuss our faith with others, particularly those who aren't Orthodox or have been born and raised in the Greek Orthodox Church but don't necessarily practice the faith. That's why I believe it's probably best to start off with not really preaching to them necessarily, but first working on ourselves, making sure that we're practicing our faith through our actions, not just our words, so that we can sort of, through our example, get others to show some interest in our faith, and they can ask us questions from there, like, why do you respond the way you do to certain circumstances? And then that's when we can explain to them, and hopefully if they're willing to receive that information, we can encourage them further. But yeah, I just think it's really important to not push people too far, because that will end up pushing them further away.
Yes. What you just said brings me in mind two things. The first one is an example that you might have heard or read about from the life of Gerontis Agavrilia. There's a book, The Ascetic of Love, and in there she mentions that when she was a physiotherapist in England, she wouldn't talk about Christ, but she would do her job as a physiotherapist, and through taking care of the human pain, people will open up to her and she would give them guidance or her opinion on what to do in their problems, and this was helping them a lot. So she used to say, through the feet to the heart. So she was taking care of their feet, but the love was entering their heart and they were able to understand things in a different way. Because being a Christian, being an Orthodox Christian, it doesn't mean that you go out and you talk about Christ to people that don't want to hear about Christ. But as you said, it means that your example, your life, and your attitude inspires them to wonder, why are you that loving? Why are you that good? Why are you not getting insulted when everybody else will have? And this is what makes a difference in the world. Not preaching about Christ, but living Orthodoxy. So Orthodoxy is not to talk about it, but it's to experience and live Orthodoxy. The second thing that comes to my mind is when someone, he was a professor in the university, and he asked Saint Porphyrio, he said to him, I'm teaching the university in the medical school, and if I was to talk to these kids about Christ, they're very good kids, they will probably listen. So the question from the professor was, should I talk to them about Christ? And Saint Porphyrios asked him, do you go to church? He said, I do. He asked after, do you have Holy Communion when it's a Sunday? He said, I do. Do you have Holy Communion when it's a big feast day? He said, I do. And then Saint Porphyrios told him, don't tell them anything. It's not you who talks, it's Christ through you. So this professor had a very spiritual life. And when you do have a spiritual life, when you're full of light, you don't need to say anything. The light makes the darkness around you disappear. And you don't need to say anything, even with a smile, even with, even with the moves of yourself, because you move in a modest way, because you move in a respectful way. This can inspire others. When, if someone is not full of light, you go next to this person and you feel agitated, you feel weird, you feel uncomfortable. Whatever we have inside us, that what comes outside. If we have peace inside, peace will come outside of us. It's not by trying to tell them, do this, do that, do this. This doesn't work. But what works is ourselves to be, as you said, as we should be, and then God works through us without us saying anything. What do you think?
I really agree with that. I think, like, if we don't practice what we preach, then how can we expect others to come to our faith? You know, we need to be an example to them first before we can go and tell them what they should be doing. I really agree with what you said.
And I think the aim is not for everyone to join our faith, but there's a reason behind the different levels of how close to Orthodoxy someone is. For example, you have some people that they never heard about Christ. You have some people that they heard about Christ but they never heard about Orthodoxy. And you have some people that they are in the Orthodox Church but they never heard about the deeper prayer. So the different levels there. And you could wonder why would God allow some people to die without knowing the truth? And should we go and preach to these people and get them to know the truth? We can go and preach to them, that's not an issue, but the thing is that I believe that God gives us the level of knowledge that we can handle. So if for someone it's not beneficial to hear about Orthodoxy and reject it, he will be judged according to his conscience. But if he was to know more, he will be judged in a heavier way. So maybe for him, the perfect thing is not to become an Orthodox, but to be judged according to his conscience. So who am I to replace God and say that this person has to know Orthodoxy? Of course I will do everything in my power to teach others through my example or whatever means the church has. But what I'm trying to say here is that we shouldn't stress if someone doesn't know the full truth. God will reveal to them as much as they need to know, and if we think that we're wiser than God to teach them more than what they should know, then we will harm them, we will not help them.
I agree. I think you really need to sort of, in a non-judgmental way, sort of see if the other person is even ready or like willing to listen to what you're about to tell them, because if they're not in the right frame of mind, then it's just going to do more damage than good, I think.
That's why we can't be strict with people, because if they don't follow Christ with their free will, it will be a disaster. If you force people to follow Christ, they will just end up quitting. It will be too hard on them. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Action.
Bravo.
Are you going to ask Maria about herself first?
Bishop Vanessa.
My name is Maria Christou. I am 22 years old and... Can I stop?
Yeah, start again.
I realised I'm looking at all the cameras. I'm 22 years old and I'm currently in my final year of studying for education.
Good.
Do you want to just go from you and picking up the question, saying, "Great, let's start with the question," or let's jump into the questions, whatever.
All right, great. Let's jump into the question. How do we discuss? We will never finish.